I woke up
I
and
remember
touched
the
my
way,
head.
the weight at the moment.
My hair was gone.
The air thick,
Every
fucking
single
romantic,
strand.
like this way.
Shaved off like
I
I
remember
was
the
nobody.
weight at the moment.
And pinned to my pillow was
The
a
air
note
thick,
that made my
fucking
blood
romantic,
turn to
like
ice.
this way.
Congratulations.
I remember the weight
You
at the
finally
moment.
have a haircut that
The air
matches your
thick,
age.
fucking romantic, like
Today
this
was
way.
my son's wedding day.
I remember the weight
If you're loving
at
this
the
story,
moment.
please hit that
The
like
air
button,
thick, fucking
share it
romantic,
with someone
like
who
this
needs to
way.
hear this, and
I remember
subscribe
the
so you
weight at
never
the
miss what
moment.
happens next.
The air
My
thick,
name is
fucking
Margaret
romantic,
Shaw.
like this way.
I'm 52 years
I
old,
remember the weight
and
at
until
the
this
moment.
morning,
The
I was
air
a
thick,
powerful
fucking
woman.
romantic,
I
like
built
this way.
buildings that touched the sky.
I remember the weight
I
at
own
the
half the
moment.
real estate in Boston.
The air thick,
People
fucking
respected me,
romantic, like this
but
way.
right now, lying in
I
my bed
remember
with
the
my
weight
head
at
burning
the
and
moment.
smooth as an egg,
The air
I
thick,
felt like the
fucking
smallest
romantic, like
person in
this
the
way.
world. I jumped out of
remember
bed
weight at
and
the
ran to the
moment.
bathroom.
The
My
air
legs
thick,
shook.
fucking romantic,
My heart
like this
pounded
way.
so loud I could
I
hear it in
remember
my
the
ears.
weight at the moment.
When I looked in the mirror,
The air
I
thick,
barely
fucking
recognized
romantic, like
myself.
this way.
The woman staring back
remember
had a
the
red,
weight at the moment.
shiny head.
The air
No
thick,
hair,
fucking romantic,
nothing,
like this
just
way.
raw skin that
I
burned
remember
like
the
fire.
weight at the
I
moment.
could still smell the
The air
sharp
thick,
chemical
fucking
smell
romantic,
of whatever
like
they
this
used to
way.
do this to me.
I
My
remember
scalp
the
felt like
weight at the
someone had
moment.
rubbed it with sandpaper.
The air thick,
I wanted to
fucking
scream.
romantic, like this
I wanted
way.
to cry.
I
I wanted to
remember
collapse on
weight
the
at the
floor
moment.
and disappear.
The air thick,
but I
fucking
didn't,
romantic, like
because
this way.
I knew exactly
I remember
who
the
did this to me.
weight at the moment.
Victoria,
The
my
air thick,
future
fucking
daughter-in-law.
romantic, like
I
this
walked
way.
back to my bedroom
I
slowly,
remember the weight
each
at the
step
moment.
feeling heavy.
The
On
air
my
thick,
nightstand
fucking
sat a
romantic,
fancy
like this way.
white envelope.
I
The
remember
handwriting
the
on it
weight
was
at the
perfect,
moment.
too
The air
perfect,
thick,
like
fucking
someone
romantic,
practiced
like
it
this way.
100 times.
I
It
remember
said,
the weight
"Have
at
a
the
great
moment.
day at MY
The
wedding,"
air thick,
with a
fucking
little heart
romantic,
drawn
like
at the
this
end.
way.
When I picked it
I
up,
remember the
I
weight
smelled
at the
expensive
moment.
perfume.
The
The
air
same
thick,
perfume
fucking
Victoria
romantic, like
wore
this way.
every single day.
I
The
remember the
same
weight
perfume
at
that
the
made my
moment.
nose itch
The
whenever
air
she hugged
thick,
me with her
fucking
fake
romantic,
smile.
like this way.
My hands started
I
shaking,
remember the weight
not
at
from
the
fear,
moment.
from
The
anger.
air thick, fucking
I looked at my
romantic,
safe
like
in the
this way.
corner of the room.
I
It was still
remember the
open from
weight
last
at the
night.
moment.
Inside
The air
was
thick,
another
fucking
envelope, a
romantic,
much
like
more
this way.
important one.
I
Inside
remember
that
weight
envelope
at
were
the
papers
moment.
that would give
The
Victoria
air
and
thick,
my son
fucking
David
romantic, like this
$22
way.
million.
I remember the
$22 million.
weight at the moment.
That was my
The air
wedding
thick,
gift to
fucking
them.
romantic,
Money
like
I
this
worked
way.
my whole life to earn.
I remember the
Money I
weight at the
saved by
moment.
waking up at 5
The
in the
air
morning
thick,
every
fucking
day.
romantic,
Money
like
I
this way.
earned by reading boring
I remember
contracts
the
until
weight
midnight.
at the moment.
Money that
The
represented
air thick,
everything I
fucking
built
romantic,
after my
like
husband
this way.
died and left me
I
alone
remember
with a
weight at
12-year-old
the
boy.
moment.
I had planned
The
to
air
give them
thick,
this
fucking
money
romantic,
because
like
I
this way.
loved my son,
I remember
because I wanted
weight
him
at the
to be
moment.
happy,
The
because
air
I
thick,
thought it would
fucking
bring us
romantic,
closer
like
together
this way.
as a family.
I
But
remember
now-
weight at the
Now,
moment.
staring at
The
that
air
envelope
thick,
with my
fucking
bald head
romantic,
burning,
like this way.
I felt something change
I remember
inside me.
weight at the moment.
That money was
The air
never
thick,
leaving the
fucking
safe.
romantic, like
I
this
walked
way.
over, picked
I
up the
remember
envelope,
weight
and
at the
held it in my
moment.
hands.
The air
The paper
thick,
felt
fucking
different now.
romantic, like this way.
Before, it felt like love.
I remember weight
Now
at
it
the
felt like a
moment.
weapon.
The
A
air
weapon
thick,
someone
fucking
tried to use
romantic,
against
like
me.
this way.
I put the envelope
I
back in the
remember
safe,
weight at the
closed the
moment.
heavy door,
The
and
air
turned the
thick,
lock.
fucking romantic,
The metal
like
made a
this way.
solid click that
I
echoed
remember
in
the
the quiet room.
weight at the moment.
That click felt like
The
the
air
most
thick,
satisfying
fucking
sound
romantic,
I'd
like
ever
this way.
heard. Then I picked
I
up my
remember
phone and called
weight at
James
the
Parker,
moment.
my lawyer.
The air
He's helped
thick,
me with my
fucking
business for
romantic,
20
like
years.
this way.
He
I
answered after
remember
2 rings.
weight at the moment.
Margaret.
The
Good
air
morning.
thick, fucking
Are you ready to
romantic,
sign the
like this way.
transfer papers?
I
I have
remember
everything
weight at the
prepared just
moment.
like you asked.
The air
I took a
thick,
deep
fucking
breath.
romantic,
My
like this
voice
way.
came out steady and cold.
I remember weight
James,
at the
stop
moment.
everything.
The air
Don't
thick,
transfer
fucking
a single
romantic,
penny.
like this way.
Not $1 moves
I
today.
remember weight at
Silence.
the moment.
Then,
The air thick,
is something
fucking
wrong?
romantic, like
Yes,
this way.
I said
I
quietly.
remember weight
Something
at
is
the
very
moment.
wrong.
The
I
air
need you to
thick,
come to my
fucking
house
romantic,
tonight after
like
the
this
wedding.
way.
We're going to
I
rewrite my
remember
entire
weight
will.
at the moment.
Margaret, what
The air
happened?
thick, fucking
I
romantic,
closed my
like
eyes.
this way.
I woke up,
I remember
James.
weight at
That's
the
what
moment.
happened. I
The air
finally
thick,
woke up.
fucking romantic,
I hung
like
up the
this way.
phone and sat
I
down on the edge
remember
of my bed.
weight at the moment.
My whole body was shaking,
The air thick,
but not
fucking
from fear
romantic, like
anymore.
this way.
I felt
I
something
remember
burning
the
in my
weight of
chest.
the moment.
Something powerful.
The air thick spoken
Victoria
moment that
thought
like
she
this
could
way.
break me. She
I
thought
remember the
shaving my
weight
head
of
would
the
make me
moment.
too embarrassed to
The
show up
air
at the
thick
wedding.
spoken moment
She
that
thought
like
I would
this
hide
way.
in my room and
I
cry while
remember
she
the
married my
weight of the
son
moment.
and took
The
everything I
air
worked
thick
for.
spoken moment
She
that
was
like this
wrong.
way.
I stood up
I
and
remember
walked
the
to my
weight
closet.
of the moment.
I pulled out a
The air
beautiful
thick
navy
spoken
blue
moment
dress,
that like
the
this
one I
way.
bought myself after
I
finishing my
remember the
biggest
weight
business
of the
deal.
moment.
I remembered
The
how
air
proud I
thick
felt that
spoken
day,
moment that
how
like this way.
strong I felt.
I remember
I would
the
need that
weight of the
strength
moment.
today. The
The
phone
air
rang
thick
again.
spoken moment
This
that
time
like
it was
this way.
Rosa, The woman
I
who's cut
remember
my
the
hair
weight-
for
weight
20
of the
years.
moment.
My throat
air
felt
thick,
tight,
fucking
but I
romantic,
kept my
like
voice
this way.
calm. Rosa,
I remember the
I
weight-
need you
weight
right
of the
now.
moment.
Bring your best
The air
wig.
thick,
The
fucking
most
romantic,
beautiful one
like
you
this
have.
way.
Nobody
I
can know what
remember the
happened.
weight of the
Rosa
moment.
is smart.
The
She
air
didn't
thick,
ask
fucking
questions.
romantic, like
She
this
just
way.
whispered,
I
I'll be
remember
there
the weight-
in
weight
20
of the
minutes.
moment.
While
The
I
air
waited,
thick,
I
fucking
sat by the
romantic,
window
like this
and
way.
watched snow falling
I
outside.
remember the weight- weight
White
of the
flakes
moment.
covered everything,
The air thick,
the trees,
fucking
the
romantic, like
paths,
this way.
the whole yard.
I
It
remember the
looked
weight-
peaceful,
weight of the
but I
moment.
didn't feel peaceful at
The
all.
air thick,
I
fucking
thought about
romantic,
my
like
life.
this way.
How I became a
I
widow
remember the weight-
at
weight of the
32.
moment.
How my husband
The air
Richard
thick,
died
fucking
suddenly,
romantic, like
leaving
this
me
way.
alone with young David.
I remember the
How I
weight- weight
promised
of the
my
moment.
son would never feel
The air
scared
thick,
or
fucking
hungry.
romantic, like
How I
this
worked
way.
harder than any man I
remember
knew
the
to
weight-
keep that
weight
promise.
of the moment.
I built apartment
air thick,
buildings,
fucking
then
romantic, like
office
this way.
towers, then
I
shopping
remember the
centers.
weight- weight of the
Every
moment.
brick, every
The air
contract,
thick, fucking
every
romantic,
deal was
like this
soaked
way.
in my sweat and tears.
I remember the weight-
I
weight
did
of
it
the
all for
moment.
David.
The
And
air
now
thick,
his future
fucking
wife
romantic,
thought she
like
could
this way.
humiliate me and steal
I remember
everything.
the weight of the
Not
moment.
today. The
The
doorbell
air thick,
rang.
fucking
I let
romantic,
Rosa
like this
in.
way.
She carried
I
a
remember
long
the
black
weight-
box.
weight of the moment.
When she saw my
The
head,
air thick,
her
fucking
eyes went
romantic,
wide,
like this way.
and she covered her mouth.
I remember the
Oh
weight-
my
weight
God,
of the moment.
Margaret.
The
Don't.
air thick, fucking
I said
romantic,
firmly.
like this
Don't
way.
ask questions.
I remember
Just help
the
me
weight-
look
weight of
strong
the
today.
moment.
It
The
took an
air
hour,
thick, fucking
but Rosa
romantic,
fitted
like
a
this way.
beautiful silver gray
I
wig on
remember
my
the weight-
head.
weight of the
It
moment.
looked and moved like
The
real
air
hair.
thick, fucking
When she
romantic,
held up the
like this
mirror,
way.
I almost gasped.
I remember the
The
weight-
woman
weight
looking
of the
back at
moment.
me wasn't broken.
The air thick,
She was
fucking
powerful.
romantic, like this
She
way.
had sharp eyes and
I
a
remember
strong
the weight-
jaw.
weight of the
She
moment.
looked like someone you don't
The air
mess with.
thick, fucking
I
romantic,
recognized
like
her.
this way.
That was Margaret
I
Shaw,
remember the weight-
the
weight of
woman
the
who
moment.
never accepts defeat.
The air thick,
I
fucking
paid
romantic,
Rosa
like
extra,
this way.
thanked her,
I remember
and walked
the
her to the
weight-
door.
weight of the moment.
When I was alone again,
The air
I
thick,
did something
fucking
important.
romantic, like this
I put
way.
a small voice recorder in
I
my
remember
purse.
the weight of the
Something
moment.
told me I
The
would
air
need
thick,
proof
fucking
today.
romantic,
Words
like this way.
alone wouldn't be enough.
I remember
I
the
looked at the
weight
clock.
of the moment.
3 hours
The air
until the
thick,
wedding
fucking
ceremony.
romantic, like
3
this way.
hours to prepare for battle.
remember the weight-
because
weight
this
of the
wasn't
moment.
just a wedding anymore.
The air thick,
This was
fucking
war,
romantic,
and
like
I was
this
going
way.
to win.
I
I put on my
remember the
gray wool
weight- weight
coat
of the moment.
and wrapped a soft scarf
The air
around my
thick,
neck.
fucking romantic,
David
like
gave
this
me
way.
that scarf 10 years
I
ago for
remember
my
the weight-
birthday.
weight of the moment.
Back then, he was different.
The air thick,
He was
fucking
MY
romantic,
boy.
like this way.
Now, that
I
memory
remember the
felt
weight-
like a
weight of the
knife in my
moment.
heart.
The
I
air
looked at
thick,
myself one
fucking
more time in the
romantic,
mirror.
like this way.
The wig looked
I
perfect.
remember the weight-
Nobody
weight
would
of the
know.
moment.
I looked like the
The air
Margaret
thick,
Shaw
fucking
everyone knew.
romantic, like this way.
Strong, elegant,
I remember the
powerful.
weight of the moment.
Son,
The air
I whispered
thick,
to my
fucking
reflection.
romantic, like this way.
Today you'll learn that you
I
picked the
remember
wrong
weight-
woman to
weight of
betray.
the moment.
I walked
The air
outside
thick,
into the
fucking
freezing
romantic,
Boston
like this
morning.
way.
Cold wind
I
slapped
remember
my
weight-
face,
weight of the
but
moment.
I didn't flinch.
The air thick,
I pulled my
fucking
collar up
romantic,
and
like
got
this
into my
way.
car. My
I
driver
remember
looked at me in the
weight of
mirror,
the
about
moment.
to say something.
The air thick,
I shook
fucking
my
romantic,
head.
like this
Not
way.
today. I need
I remember
quiet.
the weight
As we
of the
drove
moment.
through the snowy streets,
The air thick,
I watched
fucking
people through the
romantic,
window.
like this way.
Couples holding hands.
I remember the weight of the
Families
moment.
laughing together.
The air thick,
Children
fucking
playing in the
romantic,
snow.
like this
I
way.
wondered how many of them
I
had been
remember the
stabbed in the
weight
back
of the
by the
moment.
people they loved most.
The air thick,
How
fucking
many
romantic,
mothers had
like this
given
way.
everything to their children,
I remember the weight
only
of
to be
the
thrown
moment.
away like garbage.
The air thick,
I
fucking
wasn't just
romantic,
fighting for
like
myself
this way.
today. I was
I
fighting
remember
for every
weight of
mother
the
who'd
moment.
been used and
The air
forgotten.
thick, fucking
The car
romantic,
stopped
like
at the
this
church
way.
gates.
I
St.
remember
Andrew's
weight-
Church,
weight of the moment.
one of the oldest
The
and
air
most
thick,
beautiful
fucking
churches in
romantic, like
Boston.
this way.
I pressed my hand
I
to my
remember
chest
weight
and
of the
felt something
moment.
strange.
The air
I wasn't
thick,
nervous
fucking
anymore.
romantic, like
I
this way.
felt calm,
I
strong,
remember weight
ready.
of the moment.
I opened the car
The
door,
air thick,
stepped
fucking
down into the
romantic,
snow,
like this way.
and smiled.
I
Not a
remember
fake
weight
smile,
of the moment.
a real smile.
The air thick,
a smile
fucking
that said,
romantic, like this
I'm
way.
Margaret Shaw,
I
and you
remember
can't break me.
weight of the moment.
Inside the church,
The air
I
thick,
sat on
fucking
a cold
romantic,
wooden
like
bench
this way.
near the back. The
I
staff
remember
rushed around,
weight of the moment.
arranging white flowers
The air
and
thick,
lighting
fucking
tall
romantic,
candles.
like this way.
Everything looked perfect.
I remember
Too perfect,
weight of the moment.
like a beautiful
The
lie.
air thick,
As I
fucking
sat
romantic,
there,
like this way.
memories flooded my mind.
I remember weight
Memories
weight of the
I'd buried
moment.
deep for years
The air
because
thick,
they hurt
spoken
too
moment
much.
that like this
I
one.
remembered the day
I
everything
remember the
changed.
weight of the
The
moment.
day I was 32
The air
years
thick,
old,
spoken
and
moment
someone
that like
handed me a
this one.
piece of paper that said
I
my
remember the
husband was dead.
weight of the moment.
Richard. My
The air
sweet
thick,
Richard.
spoken moment
He died
that
from a
like this
sudden
one.
heart attack while
I
driving
remember
home
the
from work.
weight of the moment.
1 minute we were talking on the
The air
phone
thick,
about
spoken moment
expanding
that
our
like
small
this one.
business. The next
I
minute,
remember the weight
I was
of the
standing in a
moment.
hospital hallway,
The air thick,
covering my
spoken
face
moment
with my
that like
hands,
this one.
unable to breathe.
I remember the way
David
the
was
weight at the
only
moment.
12 years old.
The air
He
thick,
came
fucking
running down the
romantic,
hospital
like this way.
corridor in his school uniform.
I remember the way
his
the
face
weight at the
full
moment.
of confusion.
The air
Mom,
thick, fucking
where's
romantic,
Dad?
like this
Why
way.
are you crying?
I remember
Where's
the way
Dad?
the weight at the moment.
I had no answer.
The air thick, fucking
I just pulled him
romantic,
close
like
and
this
held
way.
him tight while my whole
I
world
remember
fell
the
apart.
weight at the
That
moment.
night, I made a
The
promise.
air thick, fucking
a
romantic,
promise
like
that
this way.
changed everything.
I remember
I
the
whispered
weight
into
at
David's
the
hair.
moment.
You will
The
never
air
go
thick, fucking
hungry.
romantic,
You
like
will
this
never
way.
be scared.
I
I will
remember
give
the
you
weight at the
everything.
moment.
And
The
I
air
kept that
thick,
promise.
fucking romantic,
For
like
20
this way.
years, I kept it.
I remember
We went
the
back
weight
to our
at the
tiny
moment.
house outside Boston.
The air thick,
That house
fucking
had
romantic,
2 small
like this way.
bedrooms, a kitchen with a
I
broken
remember the
stove,
weight at the
and walls
moment.
so thin you could
The
hear
air
the
thick,
neighbors
fucking
arguing.
romantic,
We
like
had
this way.
almost no money.
I remember the
Richard's
weight
life
at the
insurance
moment.
barely covered the
The air
funeral.
thick, fucking
I remember
romantic,
sitting in
like
an
this
old
way.
armchair that night,
I remember the
watching David
weight
sleep
at
on
the
the
moment.
couch. He
The
looked
air
so
thick,
small,
fucking romantic,
so
like
fragile.
this way.
His father's
I
death had
remember the
stolen the
weight
light
at the
from his
moment.
eyes. I
The
made
air
another
thick,
promise that
fucking
night.
romantic, like
I will
this
build
way.
something.
I
I will
remember
create
the
a
weight
life
at
where
the
you never
moment.
feel this pain
The
again.
air thick,
The
fucking
next
romantic,
morning,
like
I
this way.
started. I took the
I
little money
remember
we
the
had
weight at the
and
moment.
bought a rundown apartment
The air
building.
thick, fucking
It was
romantic,
falling
like
apart.
this way.
The roof leaked.
I remember
The
the
walls
weight
had
at the
holes,
moment.
but it was
The
mine.
air thick, fucking
I worked like
romantic,
a
like
machine.
this way.
I woke up at
I
5
remember the
every
weight
morning.
at the moment.
I put on old jeans
The air
and work
thick,
boots
fucking romantic,
and went to
like
that
this
building.
way.
I
I
painted
remember
walls.
the weight at the
I
moment.
fixed pipes.
The air
I cleaned
thick,
up
fucking
trash.
romantic, like
My
this
hands
way.
got covered in blisters.
I remember the weight
My
at
back
the moment.
ached every night.
The air
But
thick,
slowly,
fucking romantic,
that
like
building
this
became
way.
beautiful.
I
I
remember
rented
the
out the
weight
apartments.
at the moment.
The money I earned,
The air thick,
I
fucking
saved
romantic,
every
like
penny.
this way.
I didn't buy new
I
clothes.
remember the weight
I
at the
didn't go
moment.
to restaurants.
The air
I didn't
thick,
take
fucking romantic,
vacations.
like this
Every
way.
dollar went into
I
the next
remember the
building.
weight at the
And the
moment.
next. And
The
the
air
next.
thick, fucking
David
romantic,
grew up
like this
watching me
way.
work. He
I
saw me
remember the
leave before
weight at the
sunrise and
moment.
come home after
The air
dark.
thick,
He
fucking
saw me
romantic,
reading thick
like this
contracts
way.
at the kitchen table.
I remember
My
the
eyes
weight
so
at the
tired
moment.
I could barely see.
The air thick,
Mom,
fucking romantic,
why do
like
you work
this way.
so hard? He
I
asked me
remember
once
the
when he was
weight at
16.
the moment.
I looked at him
The air
and
thick,
smiled.
fucking romantic, like
Because
this
I want
way.
you to have the best life
I remember
possible,
the weight
sweetheart.
at the moment.
Everything I do
The
is
air
for you.
thick, fucking
He hugged me
romantic,
that
like
day.
this way.
You're the strongest
I
person I
remember
know,
the
Mom.
weight at the
That
moment.
memory made my
The
heart
air
break
thick,
now,
fucking romantic,
sitting in
like
this
this way.
church. Because somewhere along
remember
the
the
way,
weight
my
at the
strong,
moment.
loving
The
boy
air
turned
thick,
into
fucking
someone I
romantic,
didn't
like this way.
recognize. It started when he
remember
met
the weight
Victoria
at the
3 years
moment.
ago at a business
The air
party.
thick, fucking
She was
romantic, like
28,
this way.
beautiful,
I remember
and
the
charming.
weight at the moment.
She had perfect blonde
The air
hair,
thick, fucking
perfect white
romantic,
teeth,
like this way.
and a perfect smile
I
that
remember
never
the
reached her eyes.
at the moment.
From the first
The
moment
air
I met
thick,
her,
fucking
something
romantic,
felt
like
wrong.
this way.
The way she looked at
I
my
remember
house,
the weight
the
at
way
the
she
moment.
asked questions about
The
my
air
business,
thick, fucking
the way she
romantic, like
touched
this
David's
way.
arm and
I
whispered in his
remember
ear.
the weight at
But
the
David
moment.
was in love.
The air thick,
His
fucking
eyes lit up
romantic,
whenever
like
she
this
walked
way.
into a room.
I remember
He laughed
weight
at all her
at the
jokes.
moment.
He bought her
The air
expensive
thick,
gifts.
fucking romantic,
Mom,
like this way.
I think she's the one.
I remember
he
the
told me
weight
6
at the
months after they
moment.
met.
The
I want
air
to marry
thick,
her.
fucking romantic,
My stomach
like this way.
twisted, but I smiled.
I remember
If
the
she makes
weight
you
at the
happy,
moment.
then I'm happy.
The air thick,
That was a
fucking
lie.
romantic, like
But
this
what
way.
could I do?
I
He was
remember
my
the
son,
weight at the moment.
my only child.
The air
I
thick,
couldn't
fucking
lose him.
romantic, like this
So
way.
I welcomed Victoria
remember
into our
weight
family.
at the moment.
I invited her to
The
dinners.
air thick,
I
fucking
asked about her
romantic, like
day.
this way.
I tried to love
I
her
remember
because
the
David
weight at
loved
the
her.
moment.
But
The
Victoria
air
never
thick,
warmed up
fucking
to me.
romantic, like
She was
this way.
always polite but
I
cold.
remember the weight
Like
at
I
the
was
moment.
an obstacle she had
The
to
air
deal with.
thick, fucking
During
romantic,
family
like
dinners,
this way.
she would check her
I
phone while I
remember the
talked.
weight at the
When
moment.
I offered advice,
The air
she would
thick,
smile
fucking
and
romantic,
ignore.
like this way.
Then, slowly,
I remember
David
the
started
weight
changing.
at the moment.
He stopped calling
The
me
air
every
thick,
day.
fucking
He
romantic,
stopped
like
visiting on
this way.
Sundays. When
I
I asked
remember
if
the
something was
weight at the
wrong, he
moment.
said,
The
I'm
air
just
thick,
busy, Mom.
fucking romantic, like this
Victoria
way.
and I have our own life
I remember
now.
the weight
Our
at the
own
moment.
life.
The
Those
air
words
thick,
hurt
fucking
more than he
romantic,
knew.
like this way.
The wedding planning was
I remember
even
the
worse.
weight at the moment.
Victoria didn't ask
The
my
air
opinion
thick,
about
fucking
anything.
romantic, like this
She
way.
picked the church
I
without
remember
telling me.
weight at the the
She
moment.
chose the flowers,
The air
music,
thick, fucking
the
romantic,
food,
like this way.
all without asking what
I
I
remember
thought.
wait
When I
at the
tried to help,
moment.
she said
The air
sweetly,
thick, fucking romantic, like this way.
Margaret, you've
I
done
remember
so much
wait
already.
at the moment.
Just relax and
The air
enjoy
thick,
being the mother of
fucking
the groom.
romantic, like this way.
But her eyes said
I
something
remember
different.
wait
Her
at the
eyes
moment.
said, stay
The
out
air
of MY
thick,
way.
fucking romantic,
Still,
like
I
this way.
tried. I tried
remember the
so
weight
hard
at the moment.
because I loved
The air
David
thick,
more than my
fucking
own
romantic,
life.
like this way.
2 months ago, I
I
decided to give
remember
them the
weight
wedding
at
gift.
the moment.
$22
The air
million.
thick, fucking romantic,
Enough
like this
money
way.
to buy a mansion,
I remember
start a
the weight
business,
at the
live
moment.
like royalty.
The air
I
thick,
thought
fucking
maybe,
romantic,
just
like
maybe,
this way.
this gift would show
I remember
Victoria
the weight
that I
at the
accepted her,
moment.
that I wanted
The
her to
air
be
thick,
happy,
fucking romantic,
that
like
I
this
wasn't
way.
her enemy.
I
I was so
remember
wrong.
the weight at the
A
moment.
voice snapped me
The
back
air
to the
thick,
present.
fucking romantic,
Excuse
like
me,
this way.
are you all right?
I
I looked up.
remember weight
An
at the
elderly
moment.
woman in a purple
The air
dress
thick,
smiled at me
fucking
kindly.
romantic, like this
I
way.
realized tears were
I
running
remember
down my
weight
face.
at the moment.
Yes,
The
I
air
said
thick,
quickly,
fucking
wiping my
romantic, like
eyes.
this way.
Just emotional.
I remember
My
weight
son
at
is
the
getting
moment.
married today.
The air thick,
She
fucking
patted my
romantic,
hand.
like this way.
It's hard to let them go,
I
isn't
remember
it?
weight
If
at the
only
moment.
she knew.
The
I
air
wasn't
thick,
letting him
fucking
go.
romantic,
He was
like
being
this way.
stolen from me.
I
I checked
remember
my
weight
watch.
at the moment.
1 hour until the
The air
ceremony.
thick, fucking
Guests
romantic,
were starting
like
to
this way.
arrive. I saw people I
remember
knew from
weight at
business,
the moment.
friends of David's,
The air thick, fucking
Victoria's
romantic,
giggling
like this way.
bridesmaids in pink dresses.
I remember
and then I
weight at the
saw her.
moment.
Victoria
The air
walked in
thick,
through the
fucking
side door,
romantic, like this way.
surrounded by her friends.
I remember
She wore a
at the
white
moment.
silk robe over
The
her
air
wedding
thick,
dress.
fucking
Her
romantic,
blonde
like
hair was
this way.
curled perfectly.
I remember
She looked like a
at the
princess.
moment.
But when her
The air
eyes met
thick,
mine
fucking
across the
romantic,
church,
like this
I
way.
saw something evil
I remember
flash in them.
weight at the
Just for a
moment.
second,
The
a
air
tiny
thick,
smile
fucking
played at her
romantic, like
lips.
this way.
She knew I was here.
I remember
She
at
probably
the
thought
moment.
I would hide at home,
The air thick,
too ashamed to
fucking
show my
romantic,
face
like this
after
way.
what she did. But
I
here I
remember
was,
weight at the
wig in
moment.
place,
The
head
air
held
thick,
high,
fucking
her
romantic,
smile
like this way.
disappeared. She
I
looked
remember
confused,
weight at the
almost
moment.
angry.
The air
Good.
thick,
I
fucking
stood up,
romantic, like this
smoothed
way.
my dress, and
I
walked
remember
toward the front of the
at the
church
moment.
where Mother sit.
The air
Each
thick,
step
fucking
felt like a
romantic,
victory.
like this way.
Each step said,
I remember
"You didn't
weight
break
at the
me."
moment.
As I
The
passed
air thick,
Victoria,
fucking
I
romantic,
stopped,
like this
looked her
way.
straight in the eyes,
I remember
and
weight
smiled.
at the moment.
Beautiful day
The
for a
air
wedding,
thick, fucking
I said
romantic, like
softly.
this way.
I wouldn't miss it for
I
the
remember
world.
weight
Her
at the
face
moment.
went pale.
The air
She
thick,
opened her
fucking
mouth,
romantic,
but
like
no
this way.
words came out.
I
I
remember
kept walking,
at the moment.
my heart pounding
The air
with
thick, fucking
satisfaction.
romantic,
The
like
battle
this way.
had begun,
I
and
remember
I was winning.
weight at the moment.
The church filled with
The air
people.
thick, fucking
Soft
romantic,
music played
like
from
this
the
way.
organ. Everyone
I
wore
remember
fancy
weight
clothes
at
and
the
big
moment.
smiles.
The
They had
air
no
thick, fucking
idea
romantic,
what was
like
really
this way.
happening. I
I
sat in the front
remember
row,
weight at the
right where the
moment.
groom's mother should
The air
sit.
thick, fucking
My hand
romantic,
rested
like
on my
this way.
purse, where the
I
voice
remember
recorder
weight
waited
at the
silently.
moment.
All I
The air
needed was
thick,
one
fucking
moment,
romantic,
one
like this
slip,
way.
one confession.
I remember weight
The
at the
ceremony
moment.
began. David
air
walked down
thick,
the
fucking
aisle in a
romantic,
sharp
like
black
this way.
suit. My heart
I
ached
remember
when I saw him.
at the moment.
He looked so
The air
handsome,
thick,
so grown
fucking
up.
romantic,
For a
like this way.
second, I saw him as a
I
little boy
remember
again,
weight at the
holding my
moment.
hand on his first
The
day
air
of
thick,
school.
fucking
But then
romantic, like
Victoria
this way.
appeared at the back of the church,
remember
and
weight at the
everything
moment.
changed.
The
She
air
walked
thick,
down the
fucking
aisle in a
romantic,
stunning
like
white
this way.
dress, holding her
I
father's
remember
arm.
weight at
Everyone
the moment.
gasped at how
The
beautiful
air
she
thick,
looked,
fucking
but
romantic,
all I could
like
see
this
was the
way.
monster underneath.
I remember
The woman who
weight
snuck
at
into
the
my
moment.
bedroom and shaved
The
my
air
head
thick,
while I
fucking
slept.
romantic, like
When
this
she
way.
passed my row,
I remember
our eyes
weight
locked
at
again.
the moment.
This time,
The air
she
thick,
smirked.
fucking romantic,
A
like this
tiny,
way.
mean smile
I
that
remember
said,
weight
"I
at the
won."
moment.
Not yet,
The
you
air
haven't,
thick,
I thought.
fucking romantic,
The
like
priest
this
began
way.
talking about love,
I remember
commitment, and
weight at the
family.
moment.
Each word
The air
felt like a
thick,
joke.
fucking romantic,
Victoria
like this
held
way.
David's hands and
I
gazed at
remember
him with
weight
fake
at the
tears in her
moment.
eyes.
The
My
air
son
thick,
looked at her
fucking
like
romantic,
she
like
was his
this
whole
way.
world. It
I
made me
remember
sick.
weight at the
If
moment.
anyone objects to this
The air
marriage,
thick,
the
fucking
priest
romantic,
said,
like this
"Speak
way.
now or
I
forever
remember
hold your
weight
peace."
at the moment.
The church
The air
went
thick,
silent.
fucking romantic,
Everyone
like
held
this
their
way.
breath. Part
I
of me
remember
wanted to stand up
at the
and
moment.
scream the truth,
The air
but
thick,
I stayed
fucking
quiet
romantic, like this
because
way.
I had a better plan.
I remember
I
weight
now
at the
pronounce you
moment.
husband and wife.
The air thick,
You may
fucking
kiss the
romantic,
bride.
like this way.
Everyone clapped.
I remember
David
weight
kissed
at the
Victoria.
moment.
The organ
The air
played
thick,
loud,
fucking romantic,
happy music.
like this way.
People cheered.
I remember
I clapped
weight
too.
at the moment.
Even though each
The
clap
air
felt
thick,
like a
fucking
lie.
romantic,
The
like this
reception was
way.
held at the Grand
I
Harbor
remember
Hotel,
weight at the moment.
fanciest place in Boston.
The air thick, fucking
Crystal
romantic,
chandeliers
like
hung
this
from
way.
the ceiling.
I
White
remember
roses
weight at
covered
the moment.
every table.
The
A
air
band
thick,
played
fucking
jazz
romantic,
music
I
while
like this
waiters
way.
served champagne.
I remember the
sat
way
at
you
the
waited
family
the
table,
moment.
smiling
The air
politely
thick,
while
fucking
relatives
romantic, I like
congratulated
this way.
David and Victoria.
I remember the
My
way you
face
waited
hurt
the
from
moment.
fake smiling.
The air thick,
Victoria's
fucking
friends
romantic,
surrounded
I like
her,
this way.
giggling and taking
I remember
pictures.
the way you waited
I
the
watched her
moment.
carefully,
The
waiting
air
for my
thick,
moment.
fucking romantic,
Then
I
I
like
heard
this
it.
way.
Victoria
I
was
remember
standing near the
weight of the
bathroom
moment.
hallway with her best
The
friend,
air thick,
Chelsea.
spoken romantic
They didn't
like
see me
this way.
sitting on the other side of the
I
tall
remember
flower
weight of the
arrangement.
moment.
They thought they were
The
alone.
air thick, spoken
I
romantic
quietly
like
reached
this
into my
way.
purse
I
and
remember
pressed record on my
weight of
voice
the
recorder.
moment.
Oh my
The air
God,
thick,
Victoria,
spoken romantic
you
like this way.
actually did it.
I
Chelsea
remember
whispered,
weight of the
laughing.
moment.
You
The air
shaved her
thick,
head.
spoken romantic
Victoria
like
laughed
this
too.
way.
I mean, cruel
I
laugh.
remember weight
She
of the
looked
moment.
so pathetic this
The
morning.
air thick,
I
spoken
wanted her to
romantic
feel as
like this
ugly
way.
as she really is.
I remember
My
weight
hands
of the
clenched
moment.
into fists under the
The air
table,
thick,
but I didn't
spoken
move.
romantic like
Chelsea
this way.
gasped. What if
I
she finds
remember
out it was you?
weight of the moment.
Victoria shrugged.
The air
So
thick,
what?
spoken romantic
What's she going to
like
do?
this way.
David will never
I
believe
remember
her over me.
weight of the moment.
He's completely wrapped
The
around
air
my
thick,
finger.
spoken romantic
Besides,
like this
after
way.
we get that $22
I
million,
remember weight of the
we can
moment.
go anywhere we want.
The air thick,
We can cut
spoken
her out
romantic
completely.
like this way.
$22 million?
I remember weight of
Chelsea's
the
voice
moment.
went high
The
with
air
excitement.
thick, spoken
Oh
romantic
my God.
like this way.
Yep,
I
Victoria said
remember
proudly.
weight of the
That
moment.
old woman worked her
The
whole
air
life
thick,
building her
spoken
little
romantic
empire.
like this way.
And now it's all going
I
to be
remember
mine.
weight of the
David doesn't
moment.
even realize I'm
The air
only
thick,
marrying him
spoken
for the money.
romantic like this way.
He's so desperate for
I
love that
remember
he'll believe
weight of the
anything I
moment.
say.
The air
My
thick,
heart
spoken
shattered
romantic
into a
like
million
this way.
pieces. Not
I
for me.
remember weight
For
of the
David.
moment.
You're brilliant,
The air
Chelsea
thick,
giggled.
spoken romantic
But what
like
if
this
Margaret
way.
doesn't give you the money?
I remember
Victoria's
weight of the
voice
moment.
turned cold.
The air
She
thick,
will.
spoken romantic
She's so
like this way.
desperate to keep David in her
I
life that
remember
she'll do
weight of the
anything.
moment.
And once we have
The
the
air
money,
thick, spoken
I'll
romantic
slowly
like
turn
this
David
way.
against her completely.
I remember
She'll die
weight of the
alone while we
moment.
live in luxury.
The air thick,
I
spoken
heard enough.
romantic like this
I
way.
pressed stop on the recorder
I remember
and stood up.
weight of the moment.
My legs felt weak,
The air thick,
but my
spoken
mind was
romantic
clear,
like this way.
crystal clear.
I
If
remember
this story
weight
is
of the
giving you
moment.
chills,
The
smash
air
that
thick,
like button
spoken
right now.
romantic like this
Share
way.
this with everyone who
I
needs to
remember
hear
weight
it.
of the
And
moment.
subscribe because the ending
The air
is about to
thick,
blow
spoken
your mind.
romantic like this
I
way.
walked straight to the DJ
I
booth
remember
and
weight
whispered
of the
something in his
moment.
ear. He
The
looked
air thick,
surprised but
spoken
nodded.
romantic
The
like this
music
way.
stopped.
I
Everyone
remember
turned to look.
weight of the
I took the
moment.
microphone,
The air
and my
thick,
voice
spoken
echoed through the
romantic like
entire
this way.
ballroom. Good evening,
I remember
everyone.
weight
I'm
of the
Margaret
moment.
Shaw, mother
The
of the
air
groom.
thick, spoken
I'd like to
romantic
say a
like
few
this way.
words. David
I
smiled at
remember
me nervously.
weight of the moment.
Victoria's face
The air
went
thick,
pale.
spoken
When my
romantic like
husband
this way.
died 20 years ago,
I remember
I began
weight of
my
the
voice
moment.
steady.
The
I was
air
left
thick,
with nothing
spoken
but a
romantic
12-year-old
like this way.
son and a broken
I
heart.
remember
But
weight
I
of
made
the
a
moment.
promise. I
The air
promised
thick,
David
spoken
would have
romantic like this
everything.
way.
A good life,
I remember
a safe
weight
home,
of the moment.
every opportunity.
The air thick, spoken
People
romantic
nodded,
like this way.
smiling. They thought
I
this was a
remember
sweet
weight of
speech.
the moment.
I worked
The
18-hour
air
days.
thick, spoken
I
romantic
built
like
buildings
this
with
way.
my own hands.
I remember
I
weight
sacrificed
of the
everything
moment.
so my son
The
could
air
have a
thick,
better
spoken
future.
romantic like
And
this
today,
way.
I plan to give
I remember
David and
weight
Victoria
of the
$22
moment.
million as
The
a
air
wedding
thick,
gift.
spoken romantic
Gasps
like
filled
this
the
way.
room.
I
Victoria's
remember
eyes
weight
went
of
wide.
the moment.
But this morning,
The air thick,
I
spoken
continued,
romantic like
my
this
voice
way.
getting stronger.
I remember
I woke up with
weight
my
of the
head
moment.
completely shaved.
The air thick,
Someone
spoken
broke into my
romantic like
bedroom
this
while I
way.
slept and humiliated
remember
me on what
weight
should
of
have
the
been one of the
moment.
happiest days
The
of my
air
life.
thick, spoken romantic
More
like
gasps.
this way.
People started
I
whispering.
remember weight
David
of the
stood up,
moment.
his face confused.
The air thick, spoken
Mom,
romantic
what are
like
you
this
talking
way.
about? I
I
slowly
remember
removed my
weight
wig.
of the moment.
The entire room
The air
gasped.
thick, spoken
Some people
romantic
screamed.
like this way.
David's face went
I remember
white.
weight
My
of the
bare,
moment.
red scalp
The air
shined
thick,
under the
spoken
chandelier
romantic
lights.
like this way.
I never felt more
I remember
exposed and more
weight of the
powerful at
moment.
the same time.
The air thick,
Someone did
spoken
this to me.
romantic like this
I
way.
said clearly.
I remember
And they left me a note
weight
that
of the
said,
moment.
Congratulations,
The air thick, spoken
you
romantic
finally have a
like this way.
haircut that matches your
I
age.
remember weight
Victoria
of the moment.
started shaking.
The air thick,
She tried to
spoken
back away,
romantic like
but
this
people
way.
blocked her path.
I remember
But the interesting
weight
thing,
of the moment.
I continued,
The air thick,
holding up my
spoken
phone where I
romantic like this way.
transferred the recording,
I
is that I
remember
just
weight
recorded a
of the moment.
conversation between the bride
The air
and her
thick,
friend.
spoken romantic
Would
like
everyone
this way.
like to hear it?
I
No,
remember weight
Victoria
of the moment.
screamed. You're
The air
lying.
thick, spoken
You're a bitter
romantic
old
like
woman
this
who
way.
can't let go of her son.
I remember weight
But I
of the
pressed
moment.
play. Victoria's
thick,
voice
spoken
filled the
romantic
ballroom,
like this way.
crystal clear.
I
I wanted her to
remember
feel as
weight of the
ugly as she
moment.
really is.
The air thick,
David's
spoken
completely
romantic
wrapped around
like
my
this way.
finger. I'm
I
only
remember
marrying him for that.
weight of the
Money.
moment.
She'll
The
die
air
alone
thick,
while we live
spoken
in
romantic
luxury.
like this way.
The room exploded.
I remember
People
weight
started
weight at the
yelling.
moment.
David stumbled
The air
backward
thick,
like
fucking
someone
moment,
had
the
punched
legs
him.
this way.
His face showed
I
horror,
remember the weight
betrayal,
at the moment.
pain,
The
all
air
at
thick,
once.
fucking moment, the legs
Victoria,
this way.
he whispered, tell me
I
this
remember
isn't
the
true.
weight at the
Please.
moment.
But
The air
Victoria
thick,
couldn't
fucking moment,
speak.
the legs this
Tears
way.
ran down her face,
I remember the
ruining her
weight at the
perfect makeup.
moment.
Not
The air
tears of
thick, fucking
sadness,
moment, the legs
tears
this
of
way.
being caught.
I
You
remember the
used me?
weight at the moment.
David's voice broke.
The air thick.
You
fucking
never loved
moment,
me?
Like this way.
Victoria tried to
I
grab
remember
his
the
arm,
weight at the
but
moment.
he pulled away
The
like
air
she was
thick. Fucking
poison.
moment, like
David,
this way.
wait. I can
I
explain.
remember the weight
She's
at the moment.
manipulating you.
The air
Victoria
thick. Fucking moment,
sobbed,
like
but
this
David
way.
looked at me.
I
Really
remember
looked
the
at me.
weight at the moment.
And for the first time in 3
The air
years,
thick.
I
fucking
saw my
moment,
son
like
again.
this way.
The boy who used to tell
I
me
remember
I
the
was
weight
the
at the
strongest
moment.
person he knew.
The air thick.
Mom,
Fucking moment,
he
like
whispered,
this way.
touching my bare
I
head
remember
gently.
the weight
I'm
at the
so
moment.
sorry.
The air
I'm
thick.
so
fucking
sorry.
moment, like this
I
way.
pulled him into a hug,
I
and we
remember
both
the
cried.
weight at the moment.
20 years of love,
The air thick.
pain,
Fucking moment, like
sacrifice,
this way.
and betrayal poured
I
out in
remember
that
the
moment.
weight at the moment.
Victoria's father
The
grabbed
air
her
thick.
arm
Fucking
and
moment,
dragged her toward the
like this way.
exit. We're leaving.
I remember the
now.
weight at the moment.
Victoria
The
screamed
air
and
thick.
cried,
Fucking moment,
but
like
nobody
this way.
cared. Guests
I
moved
remember
away
the
from her
weight
like
at the
she had a
moment.
disease.
The air
Her friends
thick.
pretended
fucking
they didn't know her.
like this way.
Security escorted
I
her
remember
out.
the weight
The
at the
beautiful
moment.
bride, now
The air
revealed as
thick.
a
fucking
monster,
moment, like this way.
disappeared through the doors.
I remember
3
the
months
weight
later,
at the
I
moment.
sat in my office,
The air thick.
looking out at
fucking
the
moment,
Boston skyline.
like this way.
The buildings I built stood
remember the
tall and
weight at the
strong, just
moment.
like me.
The
David
air
came
thick.
in
fucking
carrying
moment,
2 cups
like
of
this
coffee.
way.
He'd moved back
remember
home
the weight
after
at
the
the
wedding
moment.
disaster.
The
We were
air thick.
rebuilding our
fucking moment,
relationship
like this way.
slowly and carefully.
I remember
The
the
annulment
weight at the
papers came
moment.
through. He
The
said
air
quietly.
thick. Fucking moment,
It's official.
like this way.
The marriage
I
never
remember
existed.
the weight at the
I
moment.
nodded. Good.
The air thick. Fucking
Mom,
moment, like
I need to
this way.
say something.
I
David
remember
sat
the
down
weight
across
at
from
the
me.
moment.
I was blind.
The air thick. Fucking
I let
moment,
Victoria
like this
manipulate
way.
me. I ignored
I remember
you.
the weight
I took
at
you
the
for
moment.
granted. You
The
gave
air
me
thick.
everything,
fucking moment,
and I
like
treated
this
you
way.
like you didn't matter.
I remember the
I
weight
reached
at the
across
moment.
and held his hand.
The air
You
thick.
were in love.
fucking moment, like
Love
this way.
makes us do foolish
I remember
things.
the weight
But
at the
I
moment.
should have protected you,
The air
he
thick.
said,
fucking moment,
tears in his
like
eyes.
this way.
You're my mother.
I remember the
You
weight
built
at
all
the
of this for
moment.
me. And
air
I let
thick.
someone
fucking
hurt
moment,
you in
like
the
this
worst
way.
way possible.
I remember
David,
the
listen to
weight
me.
at the moment.
I squeezed
The
his
air
hand.
thick. fucking
Yes,
moment,
you made
like this way.
mistakes. But you're here now.
I remember the weight
You
at
opened
the
your
moment.
eyes. That's
The air
what matters.
thick. fucking moment,
He
like
hugged
this
me
way.
tight. I
I
love you,
remember the
Mom.
weight at the
And
moment.
I'm going to spend the
The
rest
air
of my
thick.
life
fucking
proving it.
moment, like
I
this way.
smiled, really
I remember
smiled
the
for the
weight
first time
at
in
the
months.
moment.
I
The
know
air
you will.
thick. fucking moment,
Later that
like
evening,
this way.
I went to my
I
bedroom
remember
and
the weight
opened the safe.
at the moment.
The envelope with
The
the
air
$22
thick.
million
fucking moment,
sat
like
inside,
this way.
exactly where I'd
I
left
remember
it.
the weight
But
at the
I'd
moment.
made a new decision.
The air
That
thick.
money would
fucking
go to
moment,
David
like this
and
way.
some gold digger wife.
I remember the
It would go into a
at the moment.
foundation. A
The air thick.
foundation to
fucking
help
moment,
single mothers
like
build
this way.
businesses. To
I
help
remember
women
the
who've been
weight at the
betrayed
moment.
and broken
The
rebuild
air
their
thick.
lives.
fucking moment,
I would call
like
it
this
the
way.
Richard Shaw Foundation
I
after
remember
my
the
husband.
weight at the moment.
And every woman who
The air
received help
thick.
would know
fucking
that they were
moment,
strong
like
enough
this
to
way.
rise again.
I
I
remember
looked
the
at myself in
weight
the
at the
mirror.
moment.
My hair was growing
The air
back,
thick. fucking
soft
moment,
and
like
silver.
this way.
I decided not
I
to diet
remember the
anymore.
weight at the
These
moment.
gray hairs
The air
represented
thick.
survival,
fucking moment, like
strength,
this way.
victory.
I remember
I was
the weight
Margaret Shaw.
at the moment.
I woke up bald
The
on
air
my
thick.
son's
fucking
wedding
moment,
day.
like this
My
way.
daughter-in-law tried to
I
destroy
remember
me,
the weight
but
at the
she
moment.
learned the hardest
The
lesson
air
of her
thick.
life.
fucking moment,
You can
like
shave a
this way.
woman's head, but
I
you can
remember the
never
weight
shave her
at the
power.
moment.
Did this
The
story
air
move
thick.
you?
fucking
Hit
moment,
that like
like
button.
this way.
Share it with
I
every
remember
mother,
the weight
every
at the
daughter,
moment.
every
The air
person
thick.
who's
fucking
ever been
moment,
betrayed.
like this way.
And subscribe for more
I remember the
incredible
weight
true
at the
stories that
moment.
will shake you to your
The
core.
air thick. fucking
Drop a
moment,
comment telling
like
me,
this way.
what would you have done in
I remember
Margaret's
the
situation?
weight at the moment.
Let's talk in the comments
The
below.
air thick.